Hey there, it's great to see you again for another Saturday Musings at Whizbang's blog. I'm going to be sharing with you today the first of my life principles, and you're just going to love it. Let me tell you, it can be transformative, completely change your life if you just get hold of it. So don't go away. This first principle is the truth. If you remember my little triangle I spoke about in the introduction video on my life principles was truth, trust, and learning. I just want to expound a little bit more on the truth and why it is so important for your relationships. You see, without the truth, you can't have a relationship. You can't have a relationship with your wife. You can't have a relationship with your kids, your business partners, colleagues, friends. There is nothing without the truth. So whatever you do, you've got to have the truth, because the truth ultimately is what sets us free in our relationships. So if you're thinking to yourself, I wonder why my relationship with my wife is going backwards or sideways or not going anywhere, take a look at the number one principle is the truth. Are you truthful? Now, the first thing is, are you truthful with others? Do you speak the truth, or do you sometimes go and sort of think, well, I can just skate through a little bit just there, or it's easier to lie? Sometimes it is easier to lie. I'll completely admit that. We've all lied. There's no one who hasn't lied, that's for sure. So sometimes it's easier to lie. But where is your heart? Where is the direction you're going? Are you apologetic when you lie? Do you say sorry? Do you have that sense of, oh my gosh, what have I just done? Yeah, I shouldn't lie. So are you being truthful to others? Because if you're being truthful to others, let me tell you what, it's the foundation stone of those relationships. So you think about it. Let's imagine you're having a tough time with your kids. Do your kids think you're truthful? Do they trust you? Can they, when you say something to them, do they actually believe you, or do they just like blow you off? Do they sit down with you and say, hey Dad, I need to hear some truth. Where I need some advice from you. What's the relationship like? If you've got some difficulties with your significant other, are you truthful with them? Are you saying to them, hey, we need to go along, sit down together and talk about this, and put aside all those sillinesses that can sometimes impact relationships, and speak the truth. Come down to that particular point in time. But there's another part of truth, which is, are you truthful to yourself? You may sound really strange, but there's many people that aren't truthful to themselves. They know they're not telling the truth. They're not being true to themselves. And for some reason, they think that that's not going to affect anyone because no one else will know. Nothing is happening here. Nothing at all. That's not true. You know. Every time you end up lying to yourself, you end up damaging yourself. So make a decision today that you're going to be truthful. Be truthful. Why? Is because there's nothing like having a great conversation with someone you feel like, oh my gosh, you know what? There's a connection there. There's something going on there. And the reason why there's that sort of connection is because people have this little meter inside them where they detect the truth or not. And when they detect that, hey, you know what? This person is really being truthful with me, there is a connection. And likewise, if you want to go along and be attractive to other people, be truthful to yourself first. Make sure you are true to yourself. And don't go along and sort of pretend that everything is okay because no one else will find out. So what are the characteristics of a truthful person then? The number one characteristic is this, is they understand themselves. You see, when you're being truthful to yourself, you're not worried about looking at the truth. The fact that sometimes you may blow it. Sometimes you made a big mistake. It's okay to look at that. I know the number of times I've spoken to people and they say to me, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. It's like they're not wanting to face the truth. I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. Versus, yeah, there could be a time and place to talk about things. I'm not saying that everyone has to talk about everything all the time, but to face issues head on versus running away or sort of like saying, putting their head in the sand. There's so many people put their head in the sand. Like we had the Premier of Victoria here in Australia, and he said, just because you don't want COVID-19 to be a reality doesn't mean it's not a reality. In other words, face the truth. Face the truth. So they understand themselves. So people who are truthful really understand themselves, and they are transparent. What you see is what you get. They're not trying to hide something. They're not one thing to someone else and another person, and it depends who they're with, how they behave. No, they're true to themselves. They're transparent. And that's a great thing. I must admit, there's so many people nowadays that they're exhausted, they're full of anxiety and all that sort of stuff. And one of the possible causes is because they're not being truthful to themselves and transparent. So they're trying to act the way one particular person wants them to behave, and act the way another person wants them to behave, and act another way. And the terrifying thought is, what happens if all those people come to a birthday party for them, and they're all there at once? Like, how should they act? I got no idea because I'm a different person for each person. Oh my gosh. And the anxiety and stress begins to hit them. It's not a good thing. The other thing they do, number 3 thing, truthful people do, is they meet commitments. They're very careful about committing to something. But when they commit to something, then they follow through on it. Yeah, and that's great because that means they're reliable. When a person who's truthful said to you, I'll get this particular thing done, then you know what? They're just going to get it done. They're going to get it done. And if they don't get it done, it's going to be like out of the ordinary, and they all apologize. Because, stuff happens in life as well. Yeah, so they honor their commitments. That's an old word, honor. Honor their commitments. They be accurate in assessments of themselves and others. In other words, you know what? They sit back and they say, you know what? I blew that then, and I could have done better at this particular point in time, and I didn't. I need to learn from that experience. So they're not afraid of facing the realities of life. But likewise, when someone asks them for their opinion, they don't tell them a lie. What they do is they tell them the truth, but in love. Yeah, and we'll come to that in a second. I just want to explore that a little bit more. Anyway, just the flip side of truth is lying. There's 2 different types of lies. There's a lie of commission. In other words, I've deliberately told an untruth. I've deliberately gone along and told a falsehood. So my mum would ask me, did you take the cookies out of the cookie jar when you shouldn't have? And I would say, no. And she said, you sure? And I knew I was gone. Like, Mum's got this, they have this radar. I don't know what it is. They know when their kids are lying, let me tell you. And it's just like, the thing goes around their head, like the radar comes out, and they can just tell. So that's a lie of commission. I have deliberately lied. And people do that in business all the time. They lie all the time. They think they can get away with it. That just blows my mind, yeah. I just think, why on earth do you think the truth is not going to come out? I don't know. It's just one of those things. There's another type of line. So line of commission, there's a line of omission. Omission is omitting a few of the facts. I'm not going to share something. So I'm not going to share the fact that I stole the cookie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run away, or if I'm asked, I'm just going to be silent. Yeah, I'm guilty as anything, but it's a lie of omission. I'm omitting information that would change a person's opinion on a particular issue. Yeah, once again, that happens all the time in business. It happens all the time in relationships. Could be that you're the late night, let's imagine a guy was late night at a bar with a bunch of friends, and he gets home and His wife says, "Where were you?" Oh, and he'll say something like, "Oh, I've got to get up early next morning," and just bypasses the question. Or that'd be omission, or commission is, well, "Where were you?" "Oh, I was working late in the office." Yeah, it's like so easy to say versus saying, "Hey, I was out with a bunch of friends, and hey, we're at the bar having a great time." Yeah, so it's being truthful. Yeah, but also be very careful. Sometimes apparent lies really aren't lies. Let's imagine you ask me what was happening in the football. Did such and such a team win? And I said, "Oh yes, they won." And then you found out the next day they actually lost. Does that mean I've just lied? No, it meant that at that point of time, I actually honestly believed they'd won. But let's imagine there was a last play or something like that, and happened to be the other team won. So show some grace. Your role as a person who is seeking the truth is not to go along and stomp out lies. That's other people's jobs, like it's up to them. I remember years ago, I was at a conference, and I was speaking to a senior person in one of the companies. And I went away from the conversation. I thought, you know what? I think it could have been construed that I didn't tell a truth. I was actually doing a commission issue there. So the next day, I actually went back to them and I said, "I just want to make sure I clarify that this particular case," they hadn't even thought about it at all. So everything was fine, but it wasn't fine for me. You see, I wanted to make sure I was very clear, very transparent, that they understood the situation and everything. But likewise, if someone goes along and I think, "Oh, that doesn't sound right. They just lied to me." It could be they haven't actually. That from their perspective at that point of time. So it's not that they haven't at all. They've been telling the truth. So it's not your job as a seeker of the truth to go along and point out everyone else's lies. It's not your job. Your job is to worry about you and making sure you're true to yourself. So don't be judgmental. Show some grace. And that's, once again, a really old world term. Grace. Show grace towards other people. Show them, give them some slack sometimes, that, you know what, people will be people. So the truth challenge. Oscar Wilde said this. He said, "Telling the truth is rarely pure and never simple." Yeah, so I think it's a great quote. A person who's committed to the truth needs to also be committed to sharing the truth in love. Here, that's a very important point. So let's imagine, say, if someone says to me, "Hey, do you think I'm fat?" Do I just go and say, "You're a fat so-and-so"? That may be the truth, but how's it going to be received? That'd be terrible. Like, what a destructive thing to say. So one of the great things about people who are honestly seeking the truth, they also seek the truth and also think about what they're saying before they say it. It's very easy to be completely obnoxious and be telling the truth. So think not just about telling the truth, but think about how to say it. How to say it. And that's so important in every interaction. And that's one, I must admit, there's some people in history which I just marvel at when you look into their lives and so forth like that. And you see the way they didn't just tell the truth, they knew how to say it. And that's a challenge for me. Always a challenge is, how do I tell the truth? How do I share the truth with other people? It's so that it's received. There's no point telling someone the truth, what the truth is, if they're not going to receive it, because you're just being an obnoxious twat. Like, seriously, what's the point of opening your mouth? You want to be able to share so it's received. Yeah. So the truth, as I said before, is also about transparency in your relationships. Like, I'm going to tell you a really stupid story. When I first got married to Rosalind, that was like 33 years ago. So it's a fair while ago now. And why is it that we have a great relationship? Why is it that we have a fantastic marriage? Because number one principle is the truth. And I'll tell you the story. So when we first got married, we didn't have, like most married couples when they first get married, don't have like 2 pennies to put together, you know. They just didn't have anything. And I remember one time I went out and filled up the car with some gas. And while I was there was this Mars bar, chocolate bar, was sitting there. And I was looking at it, oh my gosh, I really want that. And it may sound strange, but I went along and I bought it and everything like that. But I came back home, and Rosa said, "Oh, you fill the car up with gas?" I said, "Yeah, I filled the car up with gas." And then I suddenly went, "Ah, I also bought a Mars bar." And she goes, "Yeah, that's not a problem. Not a problem at all." I said, I really felt like, and you may sit there and you go, "That's just ridiculous. That's ridiculous." No, the issue for me was transparency. I wanted to make sure there was nothing between me and my wife, that she could absolutely see who I really was in everything. And what I didn't want to do is give any little foothold to any situation where I could say, okay, that's a little bit of an omission, which I could just leave out and she won't know. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have those little things that could be built upon to be bigger things. And you can sort of justify one after the other, after another, after another. Before you know it, like it's like slippery slope analogy, And I didn't even want to start the slope. I want to be nothing between us. So with the result, 33 years later, have a fantastic marriage. Like, I to be quite blunt with you, I think I have the closest thing to heaven on earth. Why, I've got the most wonderful wife you could possibly ever wish for. But more than that, we have such an incredibly close relationship. And it's because we did not allow even the stupid things to come between us. Didn't allow anything come between us. So the question I have for you is this. The question I have is when you're with your kids, is the truth really important for you? I know with my own kids, if they went and broke something or did something stupid or something like that, they may get into trouble for it and be like, yeah, whatever. They lied and they're like executed. Yeah, there was a different order of magnitude of issue. Why was that? Because it was an attack on the fundamental relationship between me, say, and my kids, and I was never going to allow that to happen. Not one speck. So we'd always tackle the issue of lying, both my wife and I. But the truth is the foundation of all relationships, whether it's your wife, your kids, like I said, your friends, your business colleagues, all of that sort of thing. It's all about the truth. There's another part of truth which is really important. You're going to blow it. Why, you'll do something, you'll say something, why it's expedient, you say it without thinking. Like I said, we're human. A part of the truth is also this, is being prepared to apologize. We should never, ever view apologizing as weakness. A person who apologizes is a person who is strong. Why? Because they're not afraid to admit they're wrong. They're not afraid to make amends. That's a person who has real strength of character. So, what is the truth is the foundation of all relationships. Are you truthful to yourself? Are you truthful with others? What are the ramifications for what you're doing in your life for the truth? For me, it's been completely transformative. And I have relationships which are decades old. And I'm looking forward to, into the future, of meeting new people and establishing relationships into the long term. But I'm going to be tackling that next time when we look at trust, because this is truth, trust, and learning. Anyway, thank you for your time. Do appreciate it.